Welcome to Sleepy History Stories. Tonight, we drift back to a world long before kingdoms rose, long before writing shaped memory, and long before tools became complex. It is a world of wind, silence, drifting embers, and the quiet footsteps of early humans who stood between animal instinct and the first trace of what would one day be civilization. Let the soft sound of imagined crackling and distant night breezes settle your thoughts as we begin. Imagine a landscape untouched by roads or stone walls. It is the deep Paleolithic, hundreds of thousands of years ago, when the world was ruled by long stretches of grassland, dense forests, and ancient sky. The nights are darker than anything we know today. There are no lamps, no reflections from nearby towns, nothing to guide the eye once the sun slips away. Only the moon, the stars, and the rustle of unseen animals moving in the dark. For early humans, this darkness shaped their lives. The setting sun meant slowing down, staying together, finding a place where the night could pass with the least danger. A soft wind moves across the savanna, carrying scents of soil, crushed grass, and the lingering presence of large animals that crossed earlier. In this world, survival depends on attentiveness. Every shadow could conceal a predator. Every sound could be a clue. And every moment demands caution. Picture a small group of our ancestors gathering under an overhanging rock just before dusk. They move slowly, deliberately, aware that night is approaching. Their senses are sharper than ours. They feel the texture of the air changing as the sky dims. They study the horizon for silhouettes that might approach. The wind cools, and their bodies react instinctively, shoulders curling inward, arms crossing lightly over their chests for warmth. They settle together in a tight cluster, comforted not only by closeness, but by shared awareness. These early humans communicate without speech as we know it. Low hums, gestures, quiet breaths, and eye movements form their language. Their connection is grounded in instinct and years of observing each other carefully. There's a rhythm to the group, a silent agreement about when to move, when to eat, and when to rest. As darkness grows, they notice something flickering in the distance. A faint orange glow pulses on the far edge of the grasslands. It is not a sunrise. It is not lightning. It is something both familiar and mysterious. A natural wildfire sparked by distant storms. The glow dances, rises, and sinks, sending waves of soft light into the night. The group watches from afar. They feel fear, curiosity, and memory all at once. For generations, their ancestors witnessed such fires from a distance. The flames brought danger, heat, smoke, and unpredictable movement. But they also brought warmth. They brought cooked meat left behind by other animals. They brought light in the overwhelming darkness. And so fire became an object of fascination long before any human knew how to control it. As the night deepens, the group moves cautiously toward the distant glow. Step by slow step, they approach the perimeter of a recently burned area where the earth is still warm and patches of vegetation continue to smolder softly. Thin tendrils of smoke drift upward, illuminated by the faint moonlight. The air smells of charred grass and heated soil, a scent that will become deeply woven into human history. Among the ashes they find branches still glowing with red embers. These early humans do not create fire yet, but they understand that these glowing pieces are valuable. They use long sticks to gather a few smoldering fragments, placing them carefully into a small pit of sand and dry leaves. They huddle around it, watching the embers pulse gently like the breathing of a calm animal. For the first time that night, they feel warmth spreading across their skin. The cold wind retreats slightly. The darkness grows less intimidating. The flickering light reveals their hands, their faces, and the outlines of each figure in the group. It is not yet a controlled flame, but it is the earliest form of borrowed fire. Now they can rest more safely. The glow keeps predators away. The warmth guards their bodies from the chill, and the light offers a space where the night feels less overwhelming. In this moment, something quiet but profound is happening. Fire is no longer just a natural event that sweeps through the land. It is becoming part of human life. It is changing routines, altering choices, and reshaping the night. It is allowing our ancestors to sit together, to stay awake longer, to watch the world with new comfort. This is where humanity begins to shift. The night becomes less of an enemy. The dark becomes less absolute. And the first small ember of civilization glows gently in the palms of early humans who still do not fully understand what they are holding. This is the beginning of everything fire would one day make possible. The borrowed embers glow softly in the settling dark, their quiet pulse steady and hypnotic. The early humans gather closely, each one feeling the warmth extend gently across their arms and chest. The night wind that once felt sharp now drifts past with less sting, slowed by the heat that rises from the shallow pit where the embers rest. The darkness remains thick beyond their circle, but the faint orange light gives shape to the world immediately around them, creating a small island of safety in an enormous ancient landscape. The group settles slowly, lowering themselves onto the cool ground. Their movements are unhurried, cautious, and deliberate. Every gesture carries the weight of instinct, sharpened by generations of exposure to the wild. A few of them reach toward the embers, but they stop just short, sensing the danger of contact. Instead, they extend long sticks toward the glowing pieces, gently turning them to expose brighter surfaces beneath the thin layer of ash that coats them. When a slow wave of brighter red spreads across an ember, their eyes follow the motion with quiet fascination. They do not need words for this shared moment. Their breathing forms a soft, rhythmic pattern, rising and falling, as if guided by the flicker of heat in front of them. A slight crackle passes through one of the charred sticks, and several members of the group lift their heads at the sound. It is not fear that moves them, but awareness. They are learning the voice of fire, a voice that will become as familiar as wind, rain, and thunder. The night stretches on. Above them, the sky spreads wide and unbroken, filled with countless stars that shimmer against the dark void. These early humans do not understand constellations or astronomy, yet the stars affect them deeply. The light of the fire reflects faintly in their eyes as they glance upward from time to time, comparing the cold, distant glow of the heavens to the intimate warmth of the embers. One light is unreachable, eternal, and silent. The other is close, comforting, and alive with shifting movement. A young member of the group sits closer than the others, studying the embers with particular attention. The soft heat reaches their face, warming the skin and easing the tension in their muscles. Something about the fire captures them, stirring curiosity. They pick up a dry twig, holding it near one of the glowing pieces. Slowly, patiently, they move it closer until a faint curl of smoke rises from the tip. Then a tiny spark appears, brief but bright, before fading again. The group notices this attempt. They watch without strong reaction, but with quiet focus. It is a small gesture, a moment that will be repeated countless times throughout human evolution. The first experiments with heat. The first attempts to understand what fire can do. The first glimmer of the idea that fire is not only a natural force, but something that can be influenced. The embers continue to warm them through the hours of night. Occasionally, one of the older individuals rises and moves a few steps into the surrounding darkness, listening carefully. The sounds of distant animals drift through the night air, softened by distance but unmistakable. The roar of a large predator, the call of night birds, the shifting movement of grazing animals passing through the grass. Yet the fire creates a boundary those animals will likely avoid. The smell of smoke, the warmth, and the shifting light form a natural shield around the group. This protection allows something rare to happen. They rest, true rest, deeper than the light, alert sleep they usually experience. The warmth relaxes their bodies. The soft glow reduces their anxiety. Instead of huddling in constant fear, they stretch their legs slightly, allowing their muscles to loosen. Their heads lower, resting against their arms or against the shoulders of the person beside them. Their breathing becomes slower, steadier. The night becomes gentler. For the first time, the hours after sunset are not dominated by survival alone. There is space within them for calm, for reflection, for watching the world rather than hiding from it. This shift, subtle as it seems, will echo through thousands of years. With fire, humans gain time. Time to think, time to observe, time to study the flickering shapes of the world in a way they never could before. Time to share warmth, to stay awake together, to form deeper bonds that will shape the future of communities. As the night progresses, the wind increases. It sweeps across the plains, stirring the grass and carrying the scent of distant storms. The embers dim slightly, losing some of their earlier brightness. The group responds by adjusting their shelter, pulling closer together, and gently blowing on the embers in careful attempts to revive them. This simple act marks a quiet step toward mastery. By encouraging the fading heat, they are learning that fire responds to attention. It grows when fed. It diminishes when neglected. It is alive in its own way. The embers brighten again, sending thin tendrils of warm air into the cool night. Shadows dance along the nearby rocks and uneven ground, creating soft moving patterns that soothe the eyes and steady the mind. Dawn approaches slowly. The eastern horizon shifts from deep black to muted blue, then to a soft gray that reveals more of the land around them. The fire remains the brightest point in their small world until the sky begins to glow with the first hints of morning. As the light returns, the group stirs, rising gradually from their resting positions. The fire has kept them warm, has kept them comforted, and has kept the night from embracing them entirely. They study the embers one last time before preparing to move. The memory of their warmth lingers on their skin. The glow remains vivid in their thoughts. Though they will travel throughout the day in search of food and water, they now carry with them a growing awareness. Fire can be returned to, borrowed again, and maybe one day kept. The journey toward becoming fully human has begun with nothing more than a glowing ember, held in a circle of quiet beings who did not yet know how profoundly it would change the world. The path ahead stretches wide and quiet beneath the soft morning light. The early humans move slowly through the tall grass. their footsteps gentle against the earth. Behind them, the last traces of their nighttime circle fade into the landscape, leaving only a few scattered ashes and the faint impression of where they sat through the long hours of darkness. Yet the memory of the embers remains vivid within them, glowing like a quiet echo of warmth beneath the cool morning air. They travel with steady rhythm, their bodies adjusting to the weight of the day. The wind carries the scent of distant plants and the faint aroma of drying mud, reminding them of nearby water. The sky continues to brighten, filled with thin strands of pale sunlight that stretch across the horizon. The early light reveals the rough shapes of boulders, low shrubs, and wandering animals moving through the plains. The group navigates these familiar forms with practiced ease. At the center of the group, one of the older members carries a small bundle of dried material tucked carefully against the body. This bundle is precious. Inside it rests a single glowing ember taken from the fire before they left. It is carefully wrapped in dry bark and soft plant fibers, protected from wind and movement. Even a gentle breath from the wrong direction could extinguish this fragile spark, but with the right care, the ember can remain alive through hours of travel. This moment marks a quiet turning point. The group is learning that fire does not need to be discovered anew each night. It can be carried, nurtured, transported, and preserved. This single ember represents the beginning of a long tradition that will one day become central to human survival. The practice of keeping fire alive through days, seasons, and generations. The journey continues as the sun rises higher. The landscape shifts from open plains to scattered trees that cast thin, stretched shadows across the ground. Birds perch in the branches, calling softly to one another with voices that echo lightly through the warm air. Small animals rustle among the roots, their movements quick and darting. The group proceeds with steady caution, aware of every sound, yet comforted by the knowledge that fire awaits within their bundle. Eventually, they reach a sheltered clearing where tall grasses sway gently in the breeze. The ground is soft and cool, providing a place to rest and prepare for the coming night. Before tending to food or water, they carefully lower the bundle containing the ember. Several gather around, creating a small circle of quiet anticipation. Every movement becomes deliberate and unhurried. The older member unwraps the layers slowly, revealing thin wisps of smoke drifting upward from the center. The ember is weak. It glows faintly, like a tired heartbeat, beneath layers of ash. Yet it is alive. They gather dried grass, brittle sticks, and thin bark. One individual arranges them into a loose shape, creating space for air to move gently through. Another adds small fragments of plant material that crackle softly when touched. The group begins to coax the ember back to life, feeding it with tiny offerings of tinder. One leans close and breathes carefully, sending a slow stream of air across the ember. The ash moves, the glow brightens, and a thin curl of smoke rises. Moments pass. The ember grows warmer, brighter, and more confident. It begins to spread through the nest of dried material, creating small threads of orange that weave slowly across the fibers. The group watches with steady focus. They have done this before, but each time carries weight. Success means warmth and safety. Failure means a long, cold night. At last, a small flame appears. It flickers gently, delicate and uncertain, then stretches upward as more material ignites. The group relaxes slightly, shoulders soften. Breathing steadies. The flame grows, until it becomes a modest but steady fire, crackling lightly in the center of their gathering place. For the second time in 2 days, fire has come from their own efforts rather than from the unpredictable world around them. This moment is monumental, though they do not yet understand how deeply it will shape the future. Fire is no longer something they encounter by accident. It is something they can maintain, something they can encourage, something they can return to and trust. As the day fades toward evening, the group surrounds the fire. They rest around it, allowing its warmth to reach their legs and backs, easing the strain of travel. The shadows around them deepen, yet within their circle, light remains constant. The fire casts soft, rhythmic patterns across their skin, gently illuminating the shapes of their faces. The faint aroma of smoke begins to cling to their hair and skin, becoming a familiar scent, one that signals safety and belonging. Tonight, unlike the night before, they do not rely on a borrowed ember. Tonight, they have created their own flame. This new confidence changes the atmosphere of the camp. Several members explore the behavior of the fire with greater interest. They feed it small sticks, watching how quickly each one burns. They add thicker pieces of wood, observing how the flames respond. Someone places a damp branch into the fire, noticing the way it sizzles and produces more smoke. Slowly, instinct gives way to experimentation. A few pieces of raw food remain from their earlier gathering. One individual holds a piece of meat near the flame, watching the edges change color under the heat. The scent of warmed food rises gently, mixing with the soft smell of smoke. Others lean forward, studying the transformation with quiet curiosity. Over time, they will learn that fire not only warms the night, but also changes the taste, texture, and safety of food. This discovery will reshape diets, health, and the very structure of human life. As the flames continue to rise and fall, they begin to understand another lesson. Fire brings people together. The light and warmth draw them close, creating natural spaces for connection. They share the small pieces of cooked food, passing them carefully from hand to hand. Even without words, they express gratitude and recognition through gestures, through shared glances, and through the slow rhythm of shared breath. The fire crackles gently, sending sparks upward. The night settles around them, deep and expansive, yet no longer overwhelming. They sit in quiet unity, wrapped in the warmth that radiates outward. The presence of fire gives them space to think, to watch, and to understand themselves as more than creatures hiding from the dark. Through this calm, glowing center of light, a profound change begins to unfold. Fire has become part of their identity, a companion that travels with them, a tool that illuminates the world, and a quiet teacher that reshapes the way they live. In the soft dark, beneath the stars that stretch endlessly above, the first pathways toward true humanity begin to form. The fire continues to glow steadily as night settles around the small group of early humans. Its light spills softly over the uneven ground, revealing the contours of rocks, the curve of roots, and the faint outlines of distant trees. The wind whispers through the landscape, but within the circle of warmth, the chill is kept at bay. The flickering light creates shadows that move like gentle waves across their skin and faces, and the subtle crackling of the flames becomes a comforting rhythm, a pulse to guide thoughts and rest. With fire in their midst, the group begins to explore the ways it can shape their lives. They notice how the warmth reaches their limbs, easing fatigue and stiff muscles after the day's journey. Fingers that had stiffened in the cold now relax. Shoulders and necks ease. They stretch carefully, enjoying the soft heat and the simple comfort of being able to rest without constant fear of the night's chill. For the first time, the night is not simply a danger to endure, but a period that can be inhabited safely and with attention. Fire becomes a teacher as well as a companion. They observe how it responds to different kinds of wood. Dry branches flare quickly, emitting bright, crackling flames, while denser, heavier pieces burn more slowly, giving longer-lasting warmth. Smoke rises in thin columns, drifting gently in the night air, and the group notes its behavior. It swirls, moves with the breeze, and can even be used to signal others at a distance. Without understanding the science, they are learning patterns, lessons that will shape survival for generations to come. The fire also begins to change the way they interact with one another. Around its warmth, gestures and subtle sounds carry more weight. Shared glances, gentle touches, and the careful passing of small objects, pieces of food, sticks for the fire, or scraps of bark become small acts of communication. In this illuminated circle, they begin to see the value of cooperation, of attending to one another's needs, and of observing each other closely. The embers teach the lessons of patience, attention, and shared responsibility. Food is transformed in the presence of fire. Pieces of meat or tubers that were once eaten raw now roast near the flames, releasing new scents that intrigue and comfort. The group watches intently as textures change, juices bubble, and flavors become more complex. Heat kills some of the unseen dangers in the food, creating safety and increasing the range of what can be consumed. This subtle shift marks a quiet revolution in diet, health, and the ability to store and preserve nourishment. Fire is no longer only a source of protection or warmth. It is a tool that reshapes life itself. As the night deepens, storytelling begins in small, wordless ways. The flicker of the flames suggests shapes and movement that inspire gestures, hums, and shared attention. Even without developed language, humans respond to narrative patterns. The light and shadow create the illusion of motion and life. Each ember seems to tell a story of its own, a dance that shifts unpredictably yet reliably within certain bounds. Observing and learning from these small patterns sharpens the mind, nurtures imagination, and strengthens bonds within the group. The soft presence of fire also fosters a sense of temporal awareness. They measure time in the rise and fall of the flames, in the shifting warmth on their skin, in the lengthening shadows that dance over the ground. Night becomes something to inhabit, not merely endure. Their perception of hours and sequences grows more refined. With fire, the darkness loses its absolute power, giving humans a new sense of rhythm in life. They begin to see that day and night, light and shadow, warmth and cold, are not only cycles of nature, but instruments to guide their actions and choices. The surrounding world, once filled with uncertainty, now feels more navigable. They notice predators more readily at the edge of the firelight, their approach slowed or deterred by the presence of flame. They hear the subtle rustling of leaves, the cautious steps of grazing animals, and the soft whisper of wind through distant trees, all made perceptible by the contrast with the quiet fire. With heightened awareness, early humans gain confidence in movement, foraging, and preparation. They begin to understand that fire is more than a passive presence. It is a partner in survival, observation, and planning. By the time the first hints of dawn appear, the fire is still glowing steadily, providing a bridge between night and day. The group has experienced warmth, safety, nourishment, companionship, and insight. They have witnessed how fire can change the immediate world around them, and in subtle ways it begins to shape the mind. Observation, care, cooperation, and experimentation, the seeds of thought, learning, and innovation grow quietly around the gentle glow of embers. Fire has taught them patience. Fire has taught them attention. Fire has begun the quiet work of turning instinct into understanding. As the horizon lightens, the group prepares to move once more. They carry not only embers but the lessons of the night, that fire can be nurtured, used, and returned to, that it offers safety, warmth, and sustenance, that it can inspire thought, strengthen bonds, and cultivate awareness. In the simple act of tending a flame, humans begin to transform themselves, their relationships, and their place in the world. The day begins, and with it comes new possibilities. But the memory of fire, the first glow, the steady crackle that filled the night, will remain. It is the moment when early humans start to step beyond mere survival, when they begin to shape the world with their hands, minds, and hearts. The soft light of morning stretches across the plains, but the fire still glows warmly, cradled in the care of its human keepers. Its flames reach upward in gentle flickers, sending thin tendrils of smoke toward the pale sky, carrying scents of wood, earth, and slowly cooking food. Around it, the group begins the quiet rhythm of daily life. Even as the sun rises, the fire remains central, a companion, a teacher, a silent witness to the unfolding world. The group divides small tasks carefully, instinctively understanding the benefits of cooperation. Some tend to the fire, ensuring that the embers remain steady, coaxing them with careful breaths and strategic placement of sticks. Others gather food or water, keeping the offerings close to the flames until they are prepared. Each movement is deliberate, unhurried, and purposeful. Fire has changed the way the day is organized. It creates a center, a focal point around which life revolves. It gives shape to activity and structure to thought. Around the warmth, people begin to experiment more boldly. Roots and tubers are placed near the fire, slowly softening under the heat. Pieces of meat are turned and observed as they brown and release aromas that mix with the smoke. Each small action teaches the group more about cause and effect, about the transformation of matter, and about the subtle interactions between heat, air, and substance. In these quiet observations, humans learn lessons that will echo through millennia. The ability to manipulate nature to improve sustenance and to extend life beyond mere instinct. Fire also transforms the social space. Around its glow, children sit or crawl, observing the adults with rapt attention. They notice the gestures, the careful handling of embers, the division of tasks, and the quiet communication that guides the group. Even before formal language, they begin to absorb patterns of behavior, the importance of caution, and the rewards of patience. Fire teaches indirectly, through example, rhythm, and observation. As the day progresses, the group begins to see the protective qualities of fire in practice. Small predators, once a constant worry in the dark, now avoid the bright circle of warmth. Even the night birds and smaller creatures maintain a respectful distance. This quiet buffer allows humans to feel a sense of agency in their environment. Where once darkness demanded hiding, now fire permits exploration, experimentation, and longer periods of vigilance with reduced risk. The night can now be engaged with purpose rather than endured. The fire also becomes a focal point for emerging rituals and shared awareness. The group does not yet understand religion, but patterns of behavior begin to take shape around this source of light. Simple acts, passing food in order, gathering around embers to rest, or tending carefully to the flame begin to create a rhythm that links individuals to one another and to their surroundings. The fire becomes a shared responsibility, a symbol of continuity, and a quiet teacher of cooperation and care. Over the following days, the group experiments further. They discover that fire can be used to shape tools, to soften wood, and to create smoke signals. They begin to understand that the embers, though small, can be nurtured into a constant companion. They also notice that fire changes the perception of space. Shadows retreat from its edges, and previously intimidating terrain becomes navigable. The landscape itself becomes malleable in the presence of fire. In the evening, as dusk returns, the group settles once again around the glowing center. The embers are brighter than before, fueled by skill, observation, and care. Each member moves with a quiet confidence that was absent on the first night. Food is prepared carefully, the heat of the flames transforming textures and flavors, easing digestion and removing hidden dangers. The warmth penetrates deep into the muscles, relaxing tension from the day's movement. The fire becomes a source of comfort, a natural anchor for both body and mind. The night deepens, and the stars shimmer faintly above. The group sits close, learning from the flickering shapes, the movement of flames, and the subtleties of smoke. The fire teaches rhythm, patience, and attention. It provides light and darkness, warmth and cold, nourishment for both body and mind, and a silent framework for community. The simple act of tending fire has quietly transformed every aspect of life. It has turned nights from periods of fear into moments of learning, connection, and reflection. Through the flames, humans begin to glimpse the first stages of culture, of shared purpose, and of deliberate choice. They are learning to interact with the environment, not only as passive observers, but as active participants. Fire becomes a partner, shaping daily life, guiding social interaction, and extending human capacity in ways previously unimaginable. By the time the first pale light of morning stretches across the horizon once more, the group is renewed. Their bond with fire is no longer accidental. It is deliberate, cultivated, and deeply integrated into their sense of self. They rise to move through the world with knowledge, awareness, and confidence that only fire could provide. In these quiet, steady moments, early humans are learning to shape their future, one flickering flame at a time. The morning stretches gently across the plains, and the group rises from their night beside the fire. The embers glow faintly, the last traces of warmth holding softly in the pit. There is a quiet rhythm in the air, a gentle balance between light and shadow, between motion and stillness. For the humans around the fire, a new sense of possibility has begun to take root, subtle yet profound, as the lessons of flame linger in their thoughts and bodies. They move through the landscape with awareness, carrying the memory of warmth and light. Every step is measured, deliberate, shaped by the knowledge that fire can be kept, nurtured, and returned to. This knowledge has transformed the way they understand the world. The darkness no longer dominates. The cold no longer dictates. The presence of fire allows them to imagine, to experiment, to connect. and to survive with greater certainty than before. Food, once raw and uncertain, is now transformed. The heat of fire alters textures, intensifies flavors, and removes hidden dangers. Each meal prepared in this way teaches patience and observation. The process of cooking becomes a daily ritual, an intimate dance of care and attention that strengthens both body and community. The simple act of placing food near the flames fosters shared understanding, trust, and cooperation. Fire also becomes a central point for community and social connection. Around its glow, conversations and gestures flow more easily. Even without words, individuals learn to read subtle signals, to anticipate movements, and to share experiences without explicit instruction. The circle of warmth is a teacher, a protector, and a unifier. It creates a space where humans can exist together safely, where shared attention and shared care begin to form the foundation of culture. Through the nights and days, they experiment with new ways to use fire. Smoke is used to repel insects, signal across distances, and even preserve certain foods. Heat is used to soften wood, shape tools, and expand the possibilities of craft. Fire teaches attention to detail, patience with processes, and the rewards of careful observation. Every flicker of the flame, every curling wisp of smoke, every glow in the embers becomes a lesson written in movement and light. The experience of fire begins to shape the mind. Humans notice cause and effect. They observe patterns. They understand sequences of action and consequence. The flickering flame encourages imagination, planning, and foresight. Through the simple act of tending fire, humans begin to cultivate awareness, curiosity, and ingenuity. This quiet evolution within the mind is as important as the physical benefits of warmth and protection. By evening, the fire burns brightly once again. The group gathers around it, relaxed and contemplative. The shadows of the night dance gently across the terrain. The warmth permeates their muscles, the light soothes their eyes, and the scent of smoke mingles with the fresh air. They share the small comforts of human connection, quiet gestures, careful attention, and the calm presence of each other. The fire has become more than warmth. It has become a teacher, a companion, and a guide. In these moments, humanity begins to take shape in ways beyond mere survival. Fire allows humans to extend their day into the night, to observe, to experiment, to connect, and to imagine. It allows time for thought, for creativity, for reflection. It provides a center, a rhythm, and a continuity that transforms instinct into culture and experience into knowledge. The night deepens, and the group prepares to rest once again. The fire remains, a steady glow that will carry forward into future evenings. Its presence reassures, comforts, and protects. In the soft shadows and gentle crackle of flames, humans have begun to understand themselves as more than creatures of instinct. They are planners, observers, creators, and learners. The quiet relationship with fire has changed the very nature of what it means to be human. As the first stars shimmer overhead, the embers reflect softly in their eyes. In the warmth and light of fire, humanity discovers the beginnings of civilization, the seeds of society, and the first steps toward mastery of the world around them. Fire has illuminated more than night. It has illuminated the mind. It has guided the body, strengthened the community, and inspired curiosity and ingenuity. In its gentle glow, the path from instinct to understanding has quietly begun. And so our ancestors, huddled around the flickering warmth of a fire long ago, discovered not only the power of heat and light, but the profound possibilities of their own humanity. Each ember, each spark, each careful act of tending the flame marked the birth of observation, culture, and the slow awakening of thought. In the gentle glow of fire, humans became more than they were. They became themselves.